due to concerns regarding the notification sign on the property and deed restrictions in the area. The applicant has confirmed that the sign was placed on the wrong property, but was removed once they were aware it was on the wrong property. Staff has confirmed the picture of the sign and the newspaper ad was provided in a timely manner, meeting the notification requirement. The site is located within Houston's corporate limits between Wheeler and Rosewood Street, east of Emancipation Avenue. The purpose of the replat is to create 4 single-family lots and 1 shared driveway. There are no variances being requested with this item. Review by legal indicates that this plat does not violate any restrictions on the face of the plat or those filed separately. Staff's recommendation is to approve the plat subject to the CPC 101 form conditions. Madam Chair, if it pleases the commission, you may continue the public hearing for this item at this time.
Okay, thank you. The public hearing for item 99 is continued. I'm just checking against last week's speaker. The first speaker is Jane Medina.
My name is Jane Medina, and I'm a resident of Washington Terrace. I am an active member of the Washington Terrace Civic Association, and I live at the 2800 block of Wheeler. I'm here today to speak on behalf of Washington Terrace residents who are against the replat of the lot on Rosewood. These 4 townhomes do not fit the architecture of the historic neighborhood comprised of single-family brick bungalows and Tudor-style homes, nor the culture of the community. Washington Terrace has a rich history here in Houston, and the people living in this neighborhood is a small portion that creates the fabric of Third Ward. Third Ward has a strong sense of community, resilience, pride, and inclusion, which are all traits that we value. Washington Terrace has a mix of homeowners, renters, students, young families, retirees, blue-collar workers, white-collar workers, doctors, lawyers, teachers, just to name a few. It's my 90-year-old neighbor, Miss Mabel, who I take trash out for and gossip with. It's John and Amanda, renters, who are artists and yoga instructors. It's Troy, who works on the rigs and who is always there for us when we need to borrow something for our yard. And it's Sergio, a young architect, and his wife, and his 1-year-old. When developers who built these townhomes in townhome communities come in and take advantage of areas like Third Ward, who are underserved, it breaks down the neighborhoods both socially and on an economic level. Townhomes put up walls, literally, around the structures and the community. The architecture is designed to say we want your land, but we do not want you. Soon the neighborhood starts to change, and people that now reside in the area start to look the same. They think the same, they make the same amount of money, and push people out like Miss Mabel, who can no longer afford to reside in the home. I believe a gentleman on this board at the last hearing stated that one replat will not destroy your neighborhood, but it's the start of a loose thread that once pulled will start to break down the fabric that holds this community together. I ask the Planning Commission to vote no for the replat and ask your support to support us in making this process more equitable at the city and state level.
Thank you for being here. Are there questions for the speaker? Thank you. The next speaker is Lauren Haller.
Good afternoon. The Commission must balance this replat with ensuring subdivisions are constructed safely, protecting current and future residents from inadequate police and fire protection, inadequate drainage, and unsanitary conditions, citing City of Round Rock versus Smith. I've got 6 points. Let me get to them. First, deed restrictions and minimum lot size. Replats in the City of Houston have been denied where deed restrictions or restrictive covenants were modified or created between the initial plat application and final consideration with the express intent to prohibit the pending subdivision. The community is actively working on creating new deed restrictions as the previous restrictions have lapsed. The community has engaged outside counsel and is currently circulating draft restrictions. Currently pending before the city is a minimum lot size application, application number 751 for the 2400 to 2500 block of Rosewood. State statute further gives the city authority to deny replats which violate or have effect of violating any separate covenant or restriction or setback. City enforcement of covenants, restrictions, setbacks, or minimum lot sizes should be upheld against an attack that is unconstitutional enforcement of private contract and not a public purpose. As such, the city can assert that enforcement of these covenants, restrictions, setbacks, or minimum lot size has a public benefit of protecting property values and preserving neighborhood character, citing Young versus City of Houston. Per case law and statute, the city does have the ability to deny this plat as having the effect of violating the minimum lot size and the new restrictions soon to be filed, moratorium. We request the city institute a moratorium on plat applications in order to prevent the race to the application window. As Commissioner Bryant mentioned, the discussion regarding replatting is going to speed up a bit, a lot sooner than many think. As such, we request the institution of a moratorium. And is currently pending, application number 751.
We'll ask staff to sort that out. Any other questions for the speaker? Thank you. Okay. Yeah, thank you for coming. Okay, Mr. Criddle, could you kind of lay out the
Yes,
overlap on the application?
Correct. So at the time this Washington Terrace partial replat number 4 was submitted, during the deferral period is when I believe that application or the paperwork may have been submitted to the city, but it was during the deferral period of this application that's in front of us today.
And the rule is that,
Oh, so
yeah,
what you-
yeah,
yes.
State the rule for,
Essentially, this plat was submitted prior to the special lot size being submitted, so this would take precedent.
okay. So there is not a violation of minimum lot size with this?
However,
Okay, hold on. Okay. Okay. All right. Yes, Commissioner Abraham.
what about the condition that the public notice was not given before that time? I'm sorry, was the public notice given correctly then also before this motion?
Correct. That was part of the reason for the deferral. We wanted to confirm that the applicant put the sign on the correct property within the correct notification period, and we confirmed that she did. The applicant did.
And so that was done also before the HOA filed their pending?
Yes.
Yeah. Commissioner Longoria?
For my own edification, would the fact that there's a minimum lot size protection application in have any effect on the final recording? So because it was submitted before the final recording, or once it's submitted at all, that's what counts as the trigger point?
Well, it's Ms. Maher.
The final recording is dependent on the preliminary plat approval, and because this application preceded the submission for minimum lot size, it will have, the minimum lot size application would have no impact on this application moving forward.
So the minimum lot size application will be effective, assuming it's appropriate and it gets approved by City Council. It would be effective on
Every
future
other
plats.
property.
But for this plat got in before.
Before, right.
Okay. Okay, Commissioner Longoria.
Second, as far as were there any studies that had to be performed or any information turned in regarding how many cars we expect might be used by these units and the impact on the traffic and circulation in the neighborhood?
In the absence of public works per person here, the only thing we have heard and learned from them is a TIA will be only required if the delta was 100. There are no 100 cars added. These are 3 lots and 4 lots, and they won't add 100 cars. So no traffic study.
So anything below, even though we know that this will triple the density on a single family unit, we are not currently anywhere in the city asking that any kind of traffic or circulation or public health impact is mandated to see how this rapid escalation in density would affect a local neighborhood.
To my knowledge, at least, planning department is not conducting any such studies.
It's some pointed questions to get at the record that I think when we are increasing density by more than twofold, we really have to start asking ourselves, especially in these first domino situations, what that is going to mean for neighborhoods. Because we keep saying, well, piece by piece, it doesn't affect, but as a whole, I think it is starting to have an effect, and we've seen it in Rice Military, we've seen it in the north side and the east end and other neighborhoods, and so I want to caution us and perhaps ask us to review that question and those policies in the future.
Thank you. Anyone else? No. Okay.
I'd like to thank the community. You guys made a comment about something that we said last time, and actually it might have been me that should be attributed that statement, although I can't remember quite clearly, with regards to this lot might not change the entire character of the neighborhood. What I was trying to get at is that it is upon the shoulders of that community to set up either deed restrictions or guidelines, and we can help in that regard. And what we've seen here today is that community absolutely taking hold of their community and putting these things in place. And so even if we cannot prevent this particular change, I think if you continue as you are, we could prevent others. The last thing I'd like to say is that traditionally we've dealt with the restrictions as if it's a model to prevent smaller homes from coming in. But communities can actually go much farther than that, and you can regulate a lot more than the average. And so you can actually put in place things like building design guidelines as well. And so I urge you to kind of look into those kind of options, because there might be a way that you can actually work with this developer to ensure that what's built is in character with the rest of the community. But thank you again.
Commissioner Bryant?
Is the applicant here?
Is the applicant present? Don't think so.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay,
We have a couple questions.
good. Could you come forward and state your name for the record, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Marita David, the applicant for my client. Wants to build three-story, subdivide this into 3 houses.
Thank you.
3
Commissioner
lots.
Bryant, did you have questions?
I've got a few. When we spoke last week, we had strongly encouraged you to reach out and communicate with the community. Have we done so?
I wasn't notified.
Was there anyone from your entity here?
I spoke with my client because of the deferral, and he said if there's, because one neighbor called my office and notified me that they were opposing upon this development, and I relayed that message to my client, and he said he's willing to meet with the neighborhood if there's any questions regarding this development.
And had he done so?
Nobody have tried to reach him yet.
Hold on, can we make
No,
sure?
go ahead, I'll get back to it.
Okay, Commissioner Baldwin?
We'd like to continue that line of thought and think about a 2-week deferral so that you would meet with the community and see if there's any way we could find some way to do a single-family home versus 3, if the developer would so agree to it. But at a minimum, meet with the neighborhood and see if perhaps some design elements could be incorporated that are in keeping with the neighborhood. Would you be willing to meet with the neighborhood?
Yes, of course.
I'll move a 2-week deferral.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for a 2-week deferral, and I,
Would you like the staff to help facilitate that, or just to ensure that it happens?
I will notify my client, and I guess he can reach out with the
Director Wallace
owners.
Brown,
I think it's,
We'd be happy to help facilitate that conversation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bryant.
yeah, I think it's been properly moved and seconded, so we'll move forward therein. However, in the future, I would strongly encourage you and your client for this situation and others that the client reach out to the community. The whole community didn't contact the community thing is not gonna work. And so we strongly encourage all of our developers to make sure that they contact the communities that they're moving in. So this will be moved and this will be deferred for 2 more weeks, so we will discuss it again. But you will have the assistance with staff for this particular endeavor. But moving forward, please communicate to your client that we will be looking forward to developers reaching out to the communities as well.
My client told me that, he said that there's a lot of development, with the same issue, so he didn't see any problem, him developing as well the same way that others did.
Communicate to your client. We will be
Yes,
looking forward to
I will meet.
contacting the community.
Yes,
And
sir.
citing other examples will never be a good reason for them not to do so.
Yes, sir.
Director.
You may also suggest to your client that if you'd like to come in and sit down with the department and, talk with the department, this one, but it's not working. If you'd like to come in and talk with the department directly, we are willing to sit down and talk with them.
Thank you.
And I, just seconding that, I think there will be a negative impact on increasing the density from 1 to essentially 3 units on the same lot.
Okay, further discussion, there's a motion and second to defer. All those in favor? Opposed? Item 99 is deferred and the public